Hi everyone, my name is Pastor Michael Linderman. I'm the pastor of the Lutheran Church of the Redeemer in Ramsey, New Jersey, and vice pastor of Calvary Lutheran Church in Allendale, New Jersey. And I'm coming to you on Wednesday, the 12th of August. Last week I wasn't able to do a video for you because of the storm that we had. The Hurricane Isaias turned into a tropical storm, but still packed a punch as it came through New Jersey last week. And like a bull in a china shop, it wrecked all kinds of things and brought down trees and limbs, and many people were left without power. And so I also was affected that way and wasn't able to do this video. But it made me think about the power of Mother Nature and the way we use that, the imagery of that power in Mother Nature to think about God. And so I immediately thought, since every Wednesday we do a psalm, I thought of doing Psalm 29 this week while thinking about last week's experience with Mother Nature, and seeing what we can learn from this psalm and the way that it talks about God using the imagery of the force and power of Mother Nature. This is Psalm 29. Ascribe to the Lord, O heavenly beings, ascribe to the Lord glory and strength. Ascribe to the Lord the glory of his name. Worship the Lord in holy splendor. The voice of the Lord is over the waters. The God of glory thunders. The Lord over mighty waters. The voice of the Lord is powerful. The voice of the Lord is full of majesty. The voice of the Lord breaks the cedars. The Lord breaks the cedars of Lebanon. He makes Lebanon skip like a calf, and Sirion like a young wild ox. The voice of the Lord flashes forth flames of fire. The voice of the Lord shakes the wilderness. The Lord shakes the wilderness of Kadesh. The voice of the Lord causes the oaks to whirl and strips the forest bare. And in his temple all say, Glory. The Lord sits enthroned over the flood. The Lord sits enthroned as King forever. May the Lord give strength to his people. May the Lord bless his people with peace. In the first two verses of the psalm, the Lord's glory is lifted up. Glory is something that is inherently part of God's being. Nothing else in the Bible, it teaches that nothing else is to have glory like God's glory. We may call things glorious, and we do so as a way of exaggerating or using hyperbole to refer to things that we think are great or amazing or cool. But glory in this sense means the glory of God. And that glory, true glory, belongs only to God, not to anything that was created by God, but to God alone. And the voice of God is the expression of God. So there's the glory of God and the voice of God. And the voice of God is compared to a thunderstorm. The voice of God is like the wind over the waters. The God of glory thunders, the Lord over mighty waters. The voice of the Lord is powerful. The voice of the Lord is full of majesty. When this imagery of Mother Nature is used in reference to the voice of God, it's trying to say God's voice is powerful and it can be felt. So the voice of God reaches out. It affects things. It moves things. It shakes things. It causes reactions in the world around us. It is something that is so powerful that it moves and has these effects in the world. And we're to imagine that the voice of God is the most powerful thing about God. When God says or speaks something, it is true, and that truth is eternally powerful. And so even the voice of God is instrumental in creation, because God speaks and things are created in the creation story in Genesis. So the voice of God is God's manifestation in the world, And it is like a storm. It is like the power of Mother Nature in its power, in its effects, in the ways that we can see its effects. These places are mentioned. Lebanon. I'm thinking also of the city of Beirut today. As we all know, they suffered a devastating explosion and national emergency and tragedy earlier this past week, and that's due to human error. But Lebanon is in our thoughts and prayers, and here in this psalm, Lebanon is mentioned as being this place filled with cedar trees that are blown over by the wind of God, by this amazing power of the voice of God, like a wind. And Sirion is mentioned. That refers to Mount Hermon and the mountain range that is on the border between Lebanon and Syria, north of Israel. And then also the wilderness of Kadesh is mentioned, and that's down to the south, between Egypt and Israel in the Sinai Peninsula. And so the natural phenomena that are being used here and referred to are encompass the whole of Israel's environment. So we have the psalm writer sitting in the midst of Israel, thinking about the mountains to the north, and the forests of Lebanon to the north in the mountains, and the wilderness of Kadesh in the south. So north and south, heights and depths, God's power is manifest in the environment. God's power is manifest like the environment and Mother Nature. And all those who are in the temple are saying glory. And so the people who are in the midst of the temple, that's in Jerusalem, are like the radar system picking up the traces of this phenomena, the power of God's voice showing up like a storm on a radar system. And in the temple, they are all proclaiming glory. Back again to that theme of glory, that glory only belongs to God and not to the powers of Mother Nature, because God isn't in the storm. God isn't the storm. God isn't the weather. God isn't in the weather. But God is powerful like the weather. The power of the weather, the power of the elements, the power of the environment are ways that we can imagine the power of the voice of God, which is God's creative and redeeming power in the world. And then the psalm ends with this image of God sitting over the flood, the devastation created by a storm that passes through, sitting enthroned as king forever. And God is the ultimate king over all human kings and over all earthly powers. And then the final verse 11, is a blessing. May the Lord give strength to his people. That power that belongs to God, may God share that with his people, give that to his people, give that to us as a blessing. And may the Lord bless his people with peace. And I hope that this meditation on Psalm 29 would give you some peace in your hearts and minds and bless you during this week. Thank you.